Hey guys, and welcome back to Brexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, the Queen is dead. Long live the King. So, when you see what's happening in this country right now, yeah, the pomp and the pageantry. But because you've got to remember, yeah, that there's virtually nobody who's alive who has seen this before. I mean, you're going to have to be you have to be over 80 years old, really, to be able to really remember this type of thing. Because, I can remember I can remember, like the Queen's Silver Jubilee. I was I was well under 10 years. I was very, very, very young with the Queen's Jubilee. And I can just remember, all I can remember about it is there was going to be some street parties, and there was, I can remember bits of the bunting and things like that. But I never, we never really watched. I never really watched any of it on the TV. My parents might have, but I never really watched it on the TV. But I'm quite hold on. I'm just trying to think. I'm quite sure they could have still been sporting a black and white TV back then. Could have well been, because I'm sure that coloured. No, I think they was probably would have had their first. They probably would have had their first colour TV. Because I can remember our first colour TV. Yeah, the thing was really big, right? Had a big back, right? But so I never watched any of it on TV. I'd probably be in the garden playing, right? But I can remember, as I said, I can remember like there was some, I think I was probably infant school or whatever, and I think we, in the school we probably would have had some type of event. I can't remember. That's what the truth is. So I can imagine now, right, that I mean, you'd have to be at least 80. So because remember, you got to remember, yeah, is that this hasn't happened in this country for about 71, 72 years. All of this, what you're seeing now, hasn't happened, right? So you'd have to be like probably 80 years old to even remember, because I mean you'd have been like 9. So whether or not how much memory you'd have back then for that, because I tell you, my memory wouldn't be that good. My memory is no good at all for what happened in the Queen's Silver Jubilee. My memory is no good for that time at all. I can't remember. I was too young. So I would say if you was probably like, you'd probably have to be maybe like 85 on the safe side to say, yeah, I can remember quite a lot of it, because you'd have been in your teens. So you say, yeah, I can remember, I remember a lot of it, right? So no one hasn't seen this, what's happening, and let me tell you, right, the tradition is unbelievable. The amount of tradition that we're seeing, right? There's things that I've never even heard of, like obviously the handing over of the keys of the city of one of the in Scotland. Right, of the keys, I think it's to Glasgow, have got to be handed over to Prince Charles. Obviously, something what the Queen had. So there's been so many different of these ceremonies going on all over, everywhere, right? And remember, no one, there's not much people who are alive who have seen this before. As I said, you'd have to be probably 85, right, to say, yeah, I remember that, right? So now you're seeing the real tradition of what happens in this country when a monarch dies. Yeah, because I never even learnt about this in school, what I can see here, because as I said, there's been so much going on, so much. Charles is now he's addressing Parliament as the King for the first time. He's there with Camilla, the Queen consort. For the first time they're doing this. This is something that that everyone in this country again is seeing for the first time, and they're seeing all this tradition, which obviously is going to go really well for the royal family. It's going to go very, very well for the royal family. And then you've got Harry and Harry, Meghan and William and Kate. They're walking as a foursome. Do you know what I mean? Like these people, Kate, right? So all of that looks really, really good. It's gone down really, really well. I said it's gone down really, really well for the royal family. How this has how this has gone down, and then you had Charles over there jump out the car and greet the people, right? His people, and I see a woman all kissing up Charles and all them things. Then you're not really supposed to touch the monarch, right? It's like no one ever touched the Queen. You ever see anyone touch the Queen? Yeah, apart from Michelle Obama, right? put her hand on the Queen's shoulder, and the world's media went crazy. And the Queen just come out and said, listen, it's my rules, yeah? So if it's my rules, right, I can break them whenever I want. And Michelle Obama, right, is more than welcome to put her hand on her shoulder, on my shoulder, whenever she wants to. That's what the Queen said. And all of the media was like, are you still a supporter of Black Lives Matter, Mom? They said, yes. So, yeah, so so a lot of people, do you know what I mean, have been brought together, and like, the celebrations of the Queen's life, right, is going to go on, because obviously this country is in mourning at the moment. So Parliament is closed down. The funeral, the day of the funeral, is going to be a bank holiday, so that's next week. Monday is going to be a bank holiday. So a lot of people are going to observe that. Probably not people like Amazon, which is going to carry on, just carry on, yeah. And obviously all your supermarkets, people like that, I mean, because they have to open that. So but as I said, yeah, the amount of pomp and pageantry and tradition is something else. But I tell you what gets me is this shit is some real overkill. That's what it is, right? Because this family, right, this family, right, are some of the most evil motherfuckers to have ever lived, right? I'm talking about their past, because obviously, like, you see, the Queen, right, Queen really like a child through a lot of this. Well, through the Queen, the Queen's dad, right, was responsible for quite a lot. I mean, in my time, it's been like the government that have sent troops. Obviously, they are the Queen's troops that they'll send to places like Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya. It's the Queen's troops, but they're in control by the government over here, because it's the government that have unleashed on all the modern wars in my time. Yeah, but when you start going back now, I mean, if you take for example the big ass diamond that the Queen has in the forehead of the crown, right? That diamond, right, has come from India, right? Now Pakistan and India are both claiming it back, right? But you see, Pakistan is a new country. It's a very new country, because Pakistan was only formed in 1947. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say 1947. That's when Pakistan was formed. So it's a new country, right? And obviously it was part of India, right? When you look at it on the map, you'll see it for yourself. It's like, India was just this massive vast country, and it was part of that. And obviously the British, and that at that time would have been under control of. See, now I don't know how politics worked back then, right? Now I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know how it worked back then, whether or not. Yeah, because as I said, these would have been at that time. These would have been the king's soldiers, right? But whether or not the government would have sent them, because when you go back before, when the country was being led by the monarchy, it would have been the government. It would have been the monarchy that sent them, right? But even still, right, the big ass diamond, Pakistan and India are claiming that diamond back, and the British government and the monarchy have said, like, no, you can't get it. But the reason why they can say that, yeah, is because you see, all of these peoples, they're not together. You see, when you're dealing with like these type of people, because remember, as I said, these are some of the most evil motherfuckers you can find anywhere, right? You will not find, right, more evil people, right, than our royal family anywhere on the planet, right? If you can think of the most evil motherfuckers you can think of, right, these guys are 100 times worse, 100, even more than that. But let's just go with 100 times. They're 100 times worse than anything, right? These guys are more ferocious than dinosaurs. Right? Dinosaurs and human beings have never mixed. But if you have a modern day version of a dinosaur, it would be these guys, because these are some wicked this family, right, going back generations, are the most evil, the most wicked, right? If there was a devil, right, it would be on their shoulder, right? Because these people, are responsible for the deaths of millions, like millions. I'm talking about probably over 100 million people, well over 100 million people. This one family is responsible for that, right? These people have stolen, it's about 19 trillion from Africa. Right now, I don't know if that's in pounds or dollars, but whatever it is, right, whatever money it's in, it's a fucking lot of money. Right now, these guys have stolen that from Africa, stolen the lot. Right, when I tell you, I was talking about Barack Obama. Now, Barack Obama's from Kenya, and the British, right, killed hundreds of thousands of Kenyans, slaughtered them. Right? When I tell you, the whole of Africa, because remember, you've got to remember that the British Empire was like 5% of the world's population. It's a fucking lot of people. Right, so it's 5% of the world's population that these people, right, have gone and they have absolutely slaughtered, right, in the most brutal fashion. Now you see, they can get away with this, right, because so much of the peoples, right, who they've done this to are not together. A lot of people are still in support of these people. You go to India, you go to Pakistan, a lot of people still really support these people. Over here, right, it's very difficult for you to, especially like now, right, it's very difficult for you to come out and say and tell the truth about this family. Very, very difficult for you to come out and say anything, right, derogative about this family, right? Even though, right, the truth is of who they actually are, right? These people are evil. That's what the truth is. Right, the truth is the truth, and maybe the truth hurts, maybe the truth might hurt, but that is the bare bones of what these people really are. Right, they are the most murderous, right, entity to have ever lived. Right, they have killed, they have brutalized, right, they have raped, they have robbed, right, they have stolen, right, from just so many different countries in the world. I mean, this is the reason why we can have all this pomp and pageantry. That's why we can have all of this, right? And we can have all these gold carriages, what the royals have, and all these things there, and living in palaces that have been built off the back of slavery. All of these, so much of these palaces, Kensington Palace, Buckingham Palace, all of them have been built on the back of slavery. That's where we think all this money's come from. These people are responsible for transporting 6 to 7 million Africans from off of their land. That's what these people are responsible for, right? And there's people out there praising this family, and you've got Black and Asian people out there praising this family, right? I always tell you, I've got respect for the Queen, do you know what I mean? Because, I can't blame the Queen for any of this. She's living off the money. I mean, don't get that twisted. She's living off the money, but, so would I if I was in that. If that's who I was, would you think I'd take it and give it away? Fuck off, right? So she's living off of it, right? So, which is what most other people would do. I mean, you take Elon Musk, for example, right? This man's got a load of Africa's money, and he's taken it, and he's taken it, and he's built himself a nice, massive empire, right? So much so that he can be flying shit to the moon, right? And he can put, and he can fly, he can fly his fucking satellite over your territory and give you all internet. But all that money straight out of Africa. and welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages you sent me, and a special thanks to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that have signed up, so thank you so much for that. I'll go through all the messages, I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all the messages for definite. You know, I was supposed to do at least 4 videos last week, yeah, but we're in mourning, so and if you believe that, right, I would like you to send a donation to By Any Means Necessary 661@gmail.com. Anyway, let's start in I think Canada. Those 2 brothers have been one of them I think one of them killed the other one, and then he was still on the run for a little while, and then the police caught him, and then somehow he's ended up dead too. Right, so both of them are dead after going on a murderous spree. Do you know what I mean? You know, I don't know what kind of situation these guys was in, but obviously, you know, they was going through very dark times. You know, so I think they murdered about 10 people. So yeah, so as I said, both of them are dead. So that situation now has been resolved, and people just have to deal with like the aftermath. And now we have the Republicans in America just scaremongering everybody. These people are talking about the IRS, right, are coming to shoot you. It's like they're gonna come to your house with AR-15s and they're gonna shoot you. I say, what the hell is up with these people? I mean, you know, you've got Trump like absolutely losing his mind because he was called because Joe Biden said that they're he called them fascists, right? And these guys are losing their absolute minds over it. Do you know what I mean? You know, I see a speech with Trump and he was saying like, he's calling you fascist. They say, no, he's actually said, right, that these congressmen and these senators, right, who are deliberately, you know, you know, when they're deliberately saying, oh, you know, they're talking about the election was stolen. Let's start with this, yeah. How does an election get stolen from the President of the United States? I could understand how the election can get stolen from the opposition. If you're like, you know, if you thought you was in with a good chance, and then all of a sudden you didn't win, right? And you say, well, because it's been. That's more understandable. That you know, but to be the president, and then so if you say, well, there's been so much fraud in this election, surely at least one of the judges that you appointed, because we've seen in the last few days, we've seen one of the judges that Trump has appointed go against everything, right, that she signed up for, everything, right, because you know she brought out this special counsel or whatever, to the special master to look at this paperwork and that, yeah, who the special master probably won't have like the right he probably won't have the right privilege to look at these papers anyway, right? So they'd probably have to get further clearance to look at these particular paperwork anyway, because the FBI officers did have to get further clearance for them to be able to go and to be able to go and execute that warrant in the first place, right? So I'm not sure whether or not they will be able to. But Trump, right? You know, this judge, right, has gone completely against everything that she signed up for, and you think to yourself, well, this is kind of ridiculous. You know, it's like you going to court, and the judge who's sitting there is your mum, and you've got a murder charge, and the judge just at the end of the trial, the judge just says, well, I'm not going to bother with the jury. I'm just finding this person not guilty. That's equivalent to what this judge has done. It's just that blatant. It's just ridiculous, right? So even all these Trump-appointed judges, right? You're telling me not one of them could come up with a voter fraud case, you know? Because Donald Trump is saying it's massive. The fraud is massive. It's massive. It's here. It's there. It's everywhere, right? You know, there's boxes being stuffed. There's everything. Everything's been going on, right? So if that is the case, then there should be so much evidence out there, right, that the courts should be turning over, election results in certain territories like this. It should be going on all over the place if it's as big as Donald Trump said, because Donald Trump said this is massive, right? But not one judge. And remember, this has been put before 60. There's been at least 60 cases, I think, right? And not one actually did one. They did get a ruling on one, right? But it was so that people who was watching the count could stand a bit closer, because they wasn't allowed to be in there peering over people's shoulders while they're counting. So they said, well, you know what? So the judge said, well, no, you must let these people further in so they can be peering over these people's shoulders while they're counting. So they won that case, right? But every other one, I think it's like 59 cases they've lost. And you think to yourself, well, these are judges that Donald Trump has appointed, right? And if they remember right, how this woman has acted over this special master thing. So if they can't find any evidence, right, to at least put one of these through, just one, just a touch through, just one, that's it. Don't need no more, just one. They can't find that to put one through. How can there be voter fraud? How can there possibly be voter fraud if they can't find not one case? Come on, you must be able to find one at least. It's like 10 people running out of the bank with bags of money, right? And the police catch all 10, right? And they can't make a case against one. And say, well, the bank was just robbed by 10 people with guns. They've run out of the bank. You've caught them outside with the money and the guns, and they can't make a case. That's Trump. That sums up what Trump is. That's what Trump, that's how blatant what he's saying is. But you see, all Trump has done this has been a cash cow for him, right? This whole, the election's been stolen has been a money making event, because this man he's probably made over $200 million off of it. Right? Because every minute they're just hitting up people every minute. Oh, this has happened. Send me your money. The feds are raiding my house. Send me your money. Whatever it is, send Trump your money. Right? And I say, send Trump your money if you're a damn Egypt. If you're an Egypt, then send Trump your money. But a lot of these people are. And we've got that. So let's move on back to Britain. And we've got the Lionesses, right? The Lionesses absolutely did bust up Luxembourg, right? The other day, 10-0. I said, wow, what the hell? And I think I'm sure they've already qualified for the next World Cup finals. But you see, again, when you look at that, what's going on with with women's football, right? Now we're seeing why it was all that time ago that men banned women from playing football, because they didn't want to be embarrassed by the women. That's what, because something, right? And I can imagine, right, that it was a load of like right wing, and that would have been, I think it was either the 40s, the 50s. I think it was either the 40s or the 50s when women was banned from playing football. They wasn't even allowed to play football in school. Now, you know something, right? I never knew this until the Lionesses won the European Cup the other week. I never knew that till then. I never knew women was banned. I went through the whole of school not realising that women are banned from playing football. Banned from playing football. Because the men back then, right, and I guarantee it was all the right wing men, because left wing men would be like, okay, women can play football, just not going to let them beat us. If they ever play a game against us, we're just never going to let them win. But women should be able to play football. That's how I think your right wing men, your left wing men would be, because I was back in the day. I'm from a crew. There was a lot of us. There was like sometimes there could be sometimes where there's up to like 30, maybe 35 of us, right? And but a good few of them was girls, right? 15. Yeah, about 15 would be girls, right? So, and we used to go around in like massive crews. But right. Every week right, we would have a game like 11 against 11 with substitutes and everything, right? You know, of girls against you know, we'd play the girls. Obviously, come on, we're not going to let them beat us because you know we would never hear the end of it. But right, they did give us really good games, and they got better and better as the times went on when we was playing them. They got much better. Do you know what I mean? Right, but obviously, we just said we're not going to let them. No, we can't allow that now. Right, so, but as I said, I never knew anything. Right, about girls not being able to play football. Never knew that women wasn't. That's just, for me, that's ridiculous that women's not allowed. So for me, that's like, what the fuck is that about? You know, it's like, you know, I don't know. I suppose it's probably like back in the day when the Americans had like, when they'd have, you know, the Negro leagues in basketball. You know, because, you know, I suppose they would have been back then. They would have been far too afraid for black men to rise in the ranks really quickly, as you've seen how what's happened, because you know they have overtaken and virtually dominated, you know, the American basketball. I mean, the majority of them are black guys, isn't it? So I mean, and even the, you know, the world's most famous ones. I mean, you have got a good few white guys. I can't remember, like from back in the day, like I think like Larry Bird. There's a few more, but I can't remember. Do you know what I mean? But then, you know, if you're talking about like the black guys from, black guys from basketball, I mean, you got so many. Do you know what I mean? So you got so many, right? And you know, so that's why I could imagine that these men back then would have been like, no, women shouldn't be able to play football because they're going to turn out to be better than us. And that's like, you know, I just look at this country and I think to myself, you know something, yeah? Women and black people and Asian people have really been treated badly. Really badly. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, there's a lot of things that have been against those three. A lot of things that have been against those three. Bam. Do you know what I mean? You know, so, and then we've got like the Welsh ladies who secured themselves a draw to keep their hopes alive for the next World Cup. So we have to say to the Welsh ladies, come on girls, come on. And we've got that, you know, the 9-year-old child that's been murdered in Liverpool. Them suspects have been released at the moment without charge, so they're on police bail at the moment. So we'll see what happens with that situation. And then we've got this young rapper, Chris Colber, right, who has been murdered by the police, a Grime-nominated artist. I think he's from, I'm sure that he's from 67 Drill. I think that's what he's from. Which, you know, these guys, you know, they're drill artists, so they've always got to have a reputation. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, these guys, you know, a lot of them want to live in their lyrics, so that's gangster. So, you know, they're always going to have a reputation. You know, there's no doubt in that. You know, because you've got to remember now that when the police murdered Mark Duggan, it's the same thing, right? You know, the police told us all about, right, this man's about this man's life, right? A man who hasn't got a criminal record, but yet for all the police could tell us that he's from one of the most violent crews, right, in London, right, and say, oh. Really? Now you see, this is how I see it, because you see, with like the Mark Duggan case, yeah, I've only got one problem with that, just the one. I don't have any more problems apart from just one, and that was he's unarmed. And now that bears a major problem, right? If you're unarmed and you get killed by the police, because as black men, that's what we have always feared. That, you know what, they're just going to start murdering us when we're unarmed, right? And then just saying a load of shit about us. Oh, from the most violent crew in London. Oh. Yeah, just make stuff up. Right? Even if you haven't got a criminal record. If you've got a criminal record, it makes it even worse for you. Because, oh, look, criminal record. Well, we had to shoot his ass. His black ass turned around and looked at us, so we had to shoot him. Now, I've had hard stops before. Right, believe me, I've had hard stops from armed police. There's no joke. Right, it's not, you know, that shit's not funny. It's not funny at all. Right. So this is something that we have feared for the longest of time as black men. Really scared of this shit. Right? Because you know, when the police first got like tasers, right? I used to have a taser-proof jacket. The thing cost me £700. Right, that I used to move around in. Do you know what I mean? Because you know, I was so frightened of the police coming and tasering my ass. Right. So yeah, so the taser-proof jacket, and so now, as I said, this is something that we're really concerned about. And if you look at like the Mark Duggan case, for example, right now. There was a non-issue police firearm found at the scene with Mark Duggan. Now, that particular firearm, right, was 20 or 30 feet over there, which leads a problem now, and the problem to that, right, is, I mean, there's three scenarios, right? Someone has dropped that there. Right, it's just unfortunate that it was there. You know, it's just unfortunate it's the place where Mark Duggan was shot, and the gun was just over there. It's very unfortunate. You know, it's like the police chasing you, right, and then you know they catch you, and then 2 minutes later they come to you and say to you, "You dropped this bag of drugs." And you say, "No, I didn't." Say, "Well, it was over there, and you're running. You run past that spot, so you dropped this." Now. You have some real problems, right, making a jury not believe. Right? I mean, you know, you could always go down the DNA line and say, well, find my DNA on that shit. But then if you're motherfucking guilty, you can't go down that line, can you? Unless you told, oh, well, the police officer put that shit in my hand. Yeah, that could be out, right? But, I mean, the scenarios that we face with Mark Duggan is either the police could have planted it there, non-issue police firearm, either planted there, or Mark Duggan, he's had the hard stop, he's got out the car with the gun and he's thrown it. Right? Or, hold on. Oh yeah, so that's the three scenarios, right? Someone else has put it there, someone's dropped it there or put it there or whatever, right? You know, before this incident happened, right? Or police have put it there, or Mark Duggan's got out and he's thrown it. Right? But whichever one of those scenarios can only bring you back to murder. Can't take you anywhere else. Because Mark Duggan didn't have a gun in his hand. But yet for all, a jury in this country found that this shooting was lawful. They found it lawful to shoot an unarmed black man. Now I say an unarmed black man because that's what he was, but you've got to understand, it doesn't matter what colour you are in this scenario. If the police shoot you, they shoot your fucking white ass, they shoot your Asian ass, or they shoot your fucking black ass, they're going to do the same fucking thing. They're going to, right, make you out to be, right, a fucking gangster. Doesn't matter what colour you are. That's what they're going to do. They're going to make you out to be from the underworld, and they're going to say that you're a gangster. Okay? You know, we've seen police shoot white people in this country, right, and get away with it. Like the guy with the chair leg, right, and then you've got the solicitor who pointed a shotgun at the helicopter, right. Now, most people will tell you, yeah, that is, you know, I mean, depending on if the helicopter has to be pretty close, right, for you to hit it with a shotgun. Right, because remember, right, when they, you know, when you see people shooting like when they go clay pigeon shooting, or when these motherfuckers, or even when they go when they're shooting pheasants. I don't say pheasants because I think that most of them are consumed after they're shot. Right, so when pheasant or clay pigeon shooting, you see that's not that high. Right, when they pull, it's not that high. Right, so a helicopter, so to hit a helicopter with a shotgun. Right, depending on how it has to be pretty close, right? But they still shot that guy dead. It was a solicitor. They still shot him dead, right? So they said, you know, with all these scenarios, right? It doesn't matter who you are, right, and what you are. They will still shoot you, and they'll just make stuff up, and they'll literally get away with it. I mean, now they've opened a murder inquiry about this young rapper who's been murdered by them, right? Because again. Right, they've had to release. Oh well, you know, there's no police, no no non-police issue firearm has been found at the spot, which means that this guy was unarmed, right? But from what I've heard so far is his car has been known to have gun markers and all that on it, which, as I said, I don't really care if your car's got a gun marker on it. Now, if you're stupid enough, right, to get out your car with a gun, right, with armed police or whatever, then your ass is going to be shot, right? And you know, I have to hold my hands up and say, well, you're going to deserve that if you've got a gun on you and the police shoot you. You know, then you're really asking for it. You know, if the police are chasing you and you take and you've got a gun on you, and you drop it out the window, right? And then they virtually know that you're not armed no more, and and then afterwards, they haven't got a right to shoot you then. But if you've got a gun, or you've got something like a machete and you're menacing with that, then that's that's just unfortunate. But they deserve to be shot. That's as simple as it is. So we're going to see how this murder inquiry works out and find out what goes on with that. And then let's move on to like some government shit, right? Because so much people are here talking about like this small government this and small government that. And you think, really? You're shitting me. You people are absolutely serious about this. Because you see, the thing with these people, right, is I hear working class and poor people talk about how they want small government. I think, the fuck are you going to do small government? Right? Look what the Tories have done to you already. Right? I've heard of people are paying like $3.75, right, for a gallon. A gallon of fuel. For a gallon of gas, they call it. Gas. Gallon. Right? Now, it was, because it went up to over $5, right? And there was really complaining about that shit. It was over $5. And ours went up to over £10. And so theirs has gone down by over what? By $1.50, right? And ours has gone down by, mine has gone down by 21 pence. So these are the people who want to bring you small government. Mine has gone down by 21 pence. In America, theirs has gone down by at least $1.50. We're already paying more than double what they're paying, right? In this country, they've done everything, right, to destroy the people of the country's lives. Everything, no matter what it is, they've done it to try and destroy their lives. They've made everything harder. We've got Liz Truss, who's now just come out and said, "Oh, I'm going to cap for us." She's going to cap. Aren't we so lucky? You know something? Aren't we lucky? Aren't we some of the most lucky motherfuckers to have ever lived in this world? When you think about it, because Liz Truss is going to cap our utility cost at, I think, £2,500. Well, you got to remember, is this. It was going to cost us, up to 6,000. So they've done us a massive favour. But then you're saying, but then I heard what you just thought. You just thought, yeah, but it was about £1,200 last year. And then they doubled it, right? Then they doubled it, and then they said, oh, it's going to be even doubled even more. Double it again. So it's going to be 5-6 grand. But look what we've done you. We've done you a massive favour, and we're capping it at £2,500 just for you. Aren't we the great ones? And they say, how are you going to pay for that? Oh, what we're going to do, we're going to borrow £100 million. Sorry. No. Hold on. We're going to borrow. What are we going to borrow? We're going to borrow 100 billion. 100 million. Billion. 100 billion they're going to borrow to pay the utility companies, so that the utility companies over the next 2 years are going to make 170 billion in profit. Small government, eh? See, that's what small government brings you. Capital greed. That's all small government brings you. Right? I just, you know something, right? It is beyond me. I can't get my head around it. I cannot get my head around it. I find it really difficult, right? How these people get away with this shit. How do they get away with this shit? How? How? Why? Why are they allowed to do this? They stand there and they'll say to you, oh, well, we need private companies to deliver these things because, you know, for us, there's no money in it. And, you know, all we're going to do is just be paying out of taxpayers' money. Even though so much of these fuckers are subsidised. All the train lines and all that, a lot of these things are subsidised. So the government are paying for it, right? You know what's not subsidised? The profits are not subsidised. But everything else is subsidised on this shit. Right? How they've got... Right? And then if you just look at the difference that we're paying, right, in our fuel costs compared to the Americans. But you know, all of this leads back, right, to the housing costs, because the house costs in this country are far too high. That's what the problem is, right? You know, and what they've done is they've made the house costs so high, and made sure that the general public, right, have not got enough money to live. House prices really high, not enough money to live. Right? What kind of scenario do you think that makes for? It makes for the shit show that we're in. Right? And they've just, for them to be able to just say to us, oh, well, you know something, we're going to cap your utilities at £2,500. You know what gets me, right? If it wasn't for the fact that you people are such racist idiots, this wouldn't be happening. This would never happen, right? Because you know what? You'd have never voted in Thatcher. You'd have voted for Michael fucking Foot, right? Trust me on this, right? And this country would have been in a complete different place. Right, you wouldn't have voted for. Right, if you wasn't a bunch of racist fools, you'd never voted for Boris Johnson, a man who's come and done more than 100 years worth of damage to this once great nation. You wouldn't have voted for that. You'd have voted for Jeremy Corbyn, right? The man who said, you know what, I'm going to take back the money, right, from the richest. Take it back, right, and give it to the peoples. I'm going to break up all of these, you know. See, all these news companies and all that, because you know a lot of these things are like, you know, it's all polarized, isn't it? Like, you know, Rupert Murdoch, boom. Right? So, you know, all these things that Jeremy Corbyn said he was going for, right? And people was like, oh no, we don't need that. We don't need that socialism. Tell you what we do need. We need more capitalism. You see, I always relate to Marx. Anytime I talk about like socialism and capitalism, I always relate to Marx, isn't it? Because, you know, when I read something, yeah, I always try and read in between the lines. Because, you know, I consider myself to be a poet. Anywho, yeah. So I consider myself to be a poet, right? So when I get into when I read something from somewhere else, I try and read in between the lines, because, you know, a lot of people are. There's a lot of words they can use, right, that go right around the houses, yeah, to get to a point what they want to get to, you know. And you've got other people who use words like there's a lot of words out of sync, right, where, you know, like a lot of the rap artists do it. Like if you're looking at someone like Jay-Z and Eminem. They very much do that. They use it, especially like Eminem. Eminem certainly, yeah, he uses words outside the bars that they, you know, because you're supposed to like, you know, 4, 6, 8, you know, bars when you're writing lyrics, or you're writing whatever you're literally what most of the stuff that you're writing, you're supposed to, if you're doing it in bars, but a lot of these guys, they just seem to be able to work outside of that, right? So a lot of times you have to be able to like get into the minds of people who have written stuff. So that's what I do with when I read Marx, just trying to get in that mindset. Right? And for me, right, it sort of spells out, a sort of mix between your capitalism, right, and your socialism, right. Now, your capitalism, right, shouldn't get its hands on your utilities, education, healthcare. There's a few other things, but capitalism shouldn't be involved in other things. Housing, especially like social housing, capitalism should never be involved in that, right? And then you've got and then you've got things that come from your capitalists, right? If you want to, I mean, obviously governments can provide cars, and they should be able to provide. If a government's providing cars, they should provide cheaper cars for people, so that everybody will be able to drive a car. Right, but if you want to buy a car, then obviously you go to the capitalists, right? But if you want gas and electric pumped into your house, you should be supplied that by the socialists, which should be the government, should be supplying that to you, right? So, for me, I'm just like, I don't know, for me, this country, the way how this country is, I think the people of this country really deserve this level of government, and I think they're really going to deserve a whole lot of Liz Truss, right? Who Johnny Mercer's wife. Your wife should never. Your wife should never do things like this to you. But Johnny Mercer's wife has said that Liz Truss is an imbecile. I think she probably just said to Johnny Mercer, you know what, there's no place in this government for you. And then in the House of staying in the House of Parliament, right, you've got this absolute fool, Steve Bryan MP, yeah, was speaking about this comedian Joe Lycett. Joe Lycett, I don't know if you saw what happened with it. I mean, he was on. He basically took the piss out of Liz Truss, right? Really took the piss out of her. Something. There was another story about this same MP, but I can't remember what it was. But there was another story about him last week, in one of them select committees. He done something last week in one of them select committees, but I can't remember what it was. But there was so much news from ever since then. And in this country at the moment, we've got a lot of people who are having to give up their pets because they can't afford to feed their pets. But I suppose this is what happens in a country, right, where you keep voting for governments that just keep hurting you every day of the week. Every day the government is just set out. I think they wake up in the morning and think, what can we do to these motherfuckers today, right? To just fuck them up. That's what I think the government wake up saying. They've got to. This has been a long bloody video. I've still got so much shit to talk about. Anywho, right? So I just missed the story. I saw an interview with Liz Truss, yeah, where Liz Truss has said, something, right? On her policies, right, the working class and the poor, right, are going to get, I think it's around £7 a year. I'll just say, what are you going to do with your £7? What are you going to do with yours? Right? Whereas, if you're rich, her policies works out to £1,800 a year. Extra, if you're rich. This is with her tax cuts that she's talking about. But if you bring in tax cuts, right, if you bring in tax cuts, you have to cut money from somewhere else, right? And as we're going to be running £100 billion, right, to pay the utility companies, because these guys need Bentleys, helicopters, and yachts. I saw a small farm shop, yeah, who said, you know what, our yearly utility costs have gone from 20,000 to 76,000, so our house is closing, so they've had to close. Let's move on to some Brexit quickly because I have to wrap this video up, because this is a long video. I know I only done 2 last week and I was supposed to do 4, so obviously I had a lot of shit to talk about, right? But a former lorry driver and soldier. Actually, let's start with Liz Truss. Liz Truss will not be triggering Article 16. I thought she was as crazy as a box of frogs, but she's got into power now, and looks like things might be changing, because she might have realised, you know, it might not be a good thing. But the EU are offering to check less trucks going into Northern Ireland, and that's all of our sovereignty. You know something? Because we've got sovereignty. That's why we can tell. That's the reason why, because we've got sovereignty, right? So the EU could just say to us, well, you know what we'll do for you? We'll check less trucks, all right? That's them giving us some of our sovereignty back. They're saying, look, we'll give you like a little 5% of your sovereignty back, all right? Would that suit you? A little 5% of your sovereignty back? Yeah. So thank you very much. A former lorry driver and soldier from Derbyshire is one of the protesters leading the fight for the UK to rejoin the EU, the European Union. After losing his job due to Brexit, that's what he said, Peter Corr, 42, who lives in Hutton, says Brexit has, as a result of Brexit, he has lost his job. As a result of Brexit, there are less jobs, fewer opportunities for young people, and the price in the shops are rising like goddamn bullshit. He says it's time we started to update the lies told in the run-up to the referendum. It's time to stand up to the lies, to the lies, right? Told in the referendum. The ex-soldier and a driver, and lost his job, and now because they're having a march, I think they're going to have a march, right? A rejoin march. Let's rejoin march, which I tell you, much more people in this country. I mean, if they had a vote now, there'd be a massive vote to rejoin. But you know, they can vote as much as they want to rejoin. It's whether or not the EU would have us back, which I don't think they would do. I think the EU would just be like, let us think about this. You just need a few seconds. No, you are too much trouble. That's what I think the EU would be. I'm not sure whether or not they'd allow us to join like the customs union, but we could never get our full membership back. Not like how it was before, because you know we had out of everybody. Now stay with me on this, but we had the best deal out of everyone. No one had a better deal than us. We had the top draw deal out of everybody, and we was like, oh no, we don't like that deal, right? And furthermore, we're better than all of you, and furthermore to that, we're exceptional. So we're going to break away, right, and take back our sovereignty, so that we can tell you what to do. Hasn't worked out like that, though, is it? It's worked out the other way around, where the EU can just drop, well, you know what, we'll check less trucks going into Northern Ireland. Will that help? And then, you know, the fact that we're begging them to get back into things like Horizon. You know, this seems to be everything on the terms of the EU. Doesn't seem to be any terms for us. There seems to be no terms at all for us. It seems to be everything on the terms of the EU. Anyway, guys, I have to wrap this video up because this was one long ass video, and I do want to do at least another 3 this week. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Anyway, guys, this, my friends, is By Any Means Necessary. I'm GMC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.